Hey crafters, and a warm welcome to my channel. Today we are going to dive straight into using one die set, 4 different ways to start creating your Christmas cards. Now I say one die set, but we are going to add some sentiments along the way. But the die set we're going to pick up today and use is this one. We're going to add some ink, we're going to add some backgrounds, we're going to do all sorts of things to make these cards look very different, but they're going to give you a longevity out of your die, and it's going to allow you to do something different for different people in different colours should you wish to. So let's dive straight in, and I've already done some die cutting for you, and these are the dies we're using. So for the very first card, I'll show you what I mean. We're going to use these 2 dies here, which give you your background. It's this die, just this one here. We're going to give you your background, and we're going to give you your foreground, and we're also going to use one of the bows. So that's part of the bow, and then you have all these little pieces that go on the top, so you can pick and choose which one you want, because you have another bow in this section, in this collection, so you can pick and choose what you prefer. Now I'm going to stick with the design we've got here, so we're going to go with the one that's got the, not with the curved line, it's that one we're going to use. So we'll take these out of the way and we'll bring in that one as well. So we don't need a bottom piece for this, we just need that little top piece to give you kind of your hanging element. So I've already gone ahead and I've cut these out for you in different colours. Now I'm kind of sticking to similar tones really, and when I bring them in you'll see what I mean. They're not exact, but so here we go. Here's our first 2 pieces, and then I've cut a second one in this design. I absolutely love this. I think this is going to be such a useful die set. I really do. So we're going to use that first. I'm going to pop these away, and then we're going to glue these pieces together. Just bring that over like so. I'm actually going to zoom the camera out just a touch. There we go. So it's not too close. And this is going to be the really, really simple card. You know, this is going to be that one that you think, well, I can batch make these. So all we're going to do is glue the back. And I take some wet glue and I pop in the places where I need to. And these go together super fast. So I tried not to put too many layers for you, because especially at Christmas, it's always tricky when you have got a lot of cards to make and you think, oh, I'd love to use that die, but there are so many pieces, I just haven't got time. So I'm going to do both at the same time. Now, I don't mind doing this simply because I find the glue starts to cure and you get a really, really super fast adhesion. I mean, I use my own glue, which is an EVA, which is kind of a bookbinding glue, so it does glue together pretty fast. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tweezers, let's move these out of the way, and I'll just grab that here. There's a piece not popped out there. And then we take that and we line this up, and I always line from the bottom with my tweezers. There we are. So turn that around and that fits beautifully right in the middle there. Look at that. And then we'll do the same with this one. Push down. You can move that just so you have a little bit of wiggle room, not too much, simply because I allowed that to cure a little. So there's your 2 ornaments already. And then I created the top pieces in gold because I thought they looked really, really cool when we did them like this. Now, when you look at the packaging, you can see here that you don't see all of the element. You can just leave them like so and have them like that, which is very beautiful. Or you can pop your bow on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop my elements at the top here, and then I'm going to pop my bow on afterwards. So I'll glue those together, and then these 2 pieces I will adhere with foam pad. So let me pop that out of the way again. And I'm going to take this here, pop the glue like so, and this one like so, and the glue. Make sure I've got that the right way around, looking at the picture. Straight one up there, that one out there. There we go, like so. Very pretty and very cute. Oops, stuck to my hand there. It's about right there. Perfect. I don't want them exactly the same. But look at those, aren't they beautiful? And then on the top, we can now use a little foam pad and raise those up a little bit. I think that always gives you a little bit of dimension. Very, very lovely. Let's turn those over. Add our pads. This is just like small square ones. And we'll place that onto our card. Now that will just literally sit like so. You can take both of them and make sure they're the right way round. Doesn't really make an awful lot of difference, but I do like mine kind of facing the same way. So we'll pop that one there, so it's kind of pointing upwards a little bit. They're quite quirky, these little bows. I do like them. So you can see where I've lifted one further down than that one, they do look slightly different, but I'm happy with that. And then all you would do is add these to the center of your card, or kind of your center of your ornament. I'm not going to add those just yet. I'm going to add those afterwards once I've done all the layout and made sure I'm happy with where things sit, just in case I need to move the bows around a little bit. So move those to one side very quickly. And now we're going to bring in some white card and some gold card. So I've got this piece of gold card here, and I'll probably do most of this off camera because all you're going to do is end up seeing a reflection of my head or up my nose or something ridiculous, or you'll get the light shining down. So I'm going to cut a piece of card out shortly, and we're going to matte and layer some white on top. So I will do that off camera, and I'll come back with the pieces in just a second. Okay, so here are my two pieces. You can see I've got the gold and then we've got the white. Now this sits perfectly in the middle here. The reason I haven't glued these down is because I don't want to waste the inner piece kind of at the back here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to cut our sentiment out of the inside, and absolutely you can use what you've got in your stash. You can use a die, you can use a stamp, you can use whatever you like. Now I am actually going to use a stamp, so when I say one die, this is 4 cards using the same die set, but for your sentiment, like I said, you will have to add your sentiment, whether it be a die, whether it be a stamp, or whether it be a sticker of some description. Now, what I've got here is my collection that I've just released with Spellbinders, and I do love this die here that just says Christmas. And all I want to do is keep it really, really simple, so it's just going to say Christmas, but I'm going to cut that out using the gold card, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So when we open this one up, you get 3 dies that come with the word Christmas. You also get this die here, which cuts out all of your stamps as well. So if you want to stamp, you absolutely can do that. Now I've got a batch of these somewhere else, but for this demo, we're not going to be using that one. And all I'm going to do is take that word Christmas, and I'm going to use this piece in the middle, and I'm going to take my die and I'm going to cut it out of the center. Apologies for the glare. And I'm going to just cut that out of the center, okay? So here we go, I've cut this out. Now, a little trick for you guys, which is really important. If you are going to be using mirror card, keep a clear plate, all right? Keep one for the top, keep an unused one. So when you lay this down, you don't get all the cut marks appearing in your metallic card. I think it really helps because that pressure puts all of those grooves in there, and we really don't want that. So I look at that, and that's a really nice, smooth base still, and I've literally cut that out, okay? And I cut the next layer in black. Okay, so that will sit just like so, and I'll glue those in a moment, but how classy does it look when we do it like that? There is a third layer, but I'm not going to worry about that today. So pop that to one side, bring this piece back in, and we're going to adhere our white. So we're not going to do any embossing on this one. We're just going to keep this super, super simple, all right? Now we're going to have one that's got some ink on it in the next card 4. But for this one, we'll just keep it as plain as can be. And let's bring our ulti-mate back in. Pop all these on the ulti-mate, stops everything moving around, and it keeps my wooden desk nice and clean. So I'm going to turn that over for now, simply because of that glare. And then we're going to bring in one of our great tape runners. These are super, super good tape runners. You get 20 meters on each. It's like your solid permanent glue, and then you get your kind of your glue dots, okay? And I love it. So take your time with your glue. If you find you get clogged up like so, or it doesn't come out, just give it a little twist, because the glue gets caught sometimes. It's just a nature of the beast, unfortunately. There we go. And then that will sit on here. We're going to place our sentiment on as well. So we'll mix the black and the gold together. I'm not going to pop too much glue on. However, what I will do, what is really important, I think, is because it's on metallic card or like a shiny card, what I don't want to happen is I don't want all the glue squidging out and dulling the shine. So I take a piece of tissue or kitchen towel or whatever you have to hand, and then you take your tweezers, and I take this and I literally tap off any excess, okay? Any excess is coming off, and then I'll be happy to place that down. So it's in the position I want. Turn that over. I will put some 3D pads on the back, and all I'll do is I'll trim these down. Most of you will know I love a foam pad, and then we'll place that one here. Peel that backing off, and that will sit fine there. And now we will bring in our two gorgeous elements. Obviously it's not glued down yet, or we could do it the other way around, and we could pop these like so and have Christmas at the bottom, and then we'll pop a little piece of something at the top, and I think we'll go that way actually. So let's turn those around, and they will have glue on the back, but let's pop our little string down here. Now you could have done this with real string, you could have done this you know, with a piece of card. I often do this with a pen, so I'm going to mark out roughly where one will go and roughly where two will go, and I think we'll probably be about there because of Christmas. So yeah, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to hold these down and I'm going to do a wiggly line. So we don't want a straight line, and then I'm going to do a like so. Done. And then here, move those out of the way, and then I can do another wiggly line there. So now we have our wiggly lines. Nobody will know. They won't know that that's a biro. Obviously you and I will. And then we're going to place these down. So we've now got our elements lined up, and then I will take my glue. You could foam pad these if you want, but again, for speed, we're not going to foam pad. And then we'll turn that around. Just add some more glue around here, just to give that stability. Line that one, just like so. There we are. Very, very pretty. And that's settled down already. This one, we could lift on foam pads, maybe. I think it might be quite nice. So now peel these pieces off the back, turn that one around, and we can pop that one just like so. Look at that. Very pretty already, isn't it? And now we have our sentiment. Okay, pop our sentiment here. And then what we'll do is we'll take the foam pads off the back here. I'll pop these into the bin as I'm doing this. And then we will adhere this. And then we have our two bows. So now we can decide if we want bows on. Oh, this is a tricky one, isn't it? Do we want the bows? I think we do want the bows. I think that looks super pretty. It really does. Okay, let's turn that around. We'll add some glue just in the middle here. Pop that one like so. And I've not added foam pads onto this one. And then this one just under there. Now you can see why I added these after. And there are your bows. So let's add that one. And if you want, if you have any wink of Stella or something like that, you can add a little touch of that to the bow. And there you go. So there is card number one. Pop that onto a black card or pop that onto a white card base and you're good to go. So that's the first card. Card number two. So here are the three pieces of card. So we've got the outside edge, which will be the red, and then we have got the black, and then we've got the white. Okay, and that's got a lovely wide border. I absolutely love it when it has a nice wide border. Now I've taken another piece of black card, and I'm just going to let me have a look. Actually, let me know if I want black or not, or maybe I want red. No, we're going to go with the red. So we're going to take a piece of red card, okay, and bring in our paper trimmer. And this is another way of doing your kind of your hanging string. All I'm going to do is pretend I'm doing a tiny snip off of my width of my cardstock here. So let me just take that off and let's have a look. Let's see if that is, look at that, this tiny strip. I mean, that just goes to show you how beautiful this guillotine cuts as well. So we're going to use that as our piece that sits kind of like so. So just a tiny piece there. We've got those. That's all we need. And now I'm going to use some ink. So we'll pop some ink in the background here. This is going to look really, really cute. I'll bring back my ulti-mate and we will use our blending inks. And we're going to use yellow, maybe a bit of red. Was going to think about blue. I don't know. Let's see where we end up. So cardstock, yellow, ink pad. Now, this is the OG ink pad. So this is Juicy Pineapple, and this is number 1. This is the very, very, very first ink pad I ever released. Now, I'm going to use a blending brush. I'm going to use one of these kind of blending brushes because you get that smooth finish, okay? And I'm going to come into the middle here, and we're going to build up just around in a big circle, okay? Now, I was going to use my stencil brush, but it's kind of a little bit more focused, a stencil brush, and we don't really want too much focus. You know, we don't want any hard areas. And you'll see, blendability-wise, that's just off the chart good. Look, it's just so super cool. And you can see now when we do this, this is going to give us like a halo. So let's come down a little further. And you know, when you think, oh, if I add the red, is it going to ruin it? If I add the blue, is it going to ruin it? I think blue will ruin it. So we'll sit with the Juicy Pineapple and the brush, and then we'll bring in another brush. And I will just check off camera. Yeah, that's fine. And we'll bring in Strawberry Sundae. Strawberry Sundae is quite a pinky red. And what I'll do is I'll test to make sure. Yeah, quite pinky red, but it's beautiful. So I'm going to come over very lightly, just around the edges, just really gently. You get heavy, and that's where you get marks, and I don't want any marks. So just take your time with it. And again, tap off. All right, if you want to go in again, tap off. And there we go. So that's kind of given me what I wanted. It's kind of halo almost. And then take those 2 brushes away. We'll bring in our card pieces. I was going to use one of these brushes, but it is really feathery, and I think it would have given me too much of a wide coverage. And now we are going to turn this over, and we are going to put some foam, not foam, we're going to put some glue on the back. This is going to be so cool, this card. I love cards like this. I love my tape runners. They have their place. I do believe they have their place. But I do find them really, really useful. So we're going to pop this right in the middle. You can see we've got that huge border, which I absolutely love. But this isn't a massive card. So when I hold this up to the rulers, that's only 5 1/4. So I am going to pop it on here just with that small matte layer. All right, that's what we will be doing. But let's bring in our element now. So look at that. And I did have a little tiny red piece, which was going to be my border. And have I put it somewhere incredibly safe? I'm very good at doing that right now, aren't I? Let's just cut another one. Let's cut another one. So we need our trimmer. You know what's going to happen. I'll make the card and I'll find it. So we'll just grab a tiny, tiny slither. I'm sorry about the light here. There we go. Move that out of the way. Then we have this piece. So all we're going to do with this, now obviously it's curling a little bit because it's so thin, but we'll take this out of the way and we'll pop this on the back first. So I need the tiniest amount of glue. So we'll pop it on here first. We don't need that length for a start, so we can trim that down. Get rid of that piece. Bring in the glue. And then again, do that thing, kind of take your tissue and wipe some off if you think you've got too much, okay? And I'll have a look here. So I think, yeah, so I'm going to trim off some more. leave that there for a moment. It's fine. And then I'm going to take this. I'm going to try and keep my head out of the way. I'm doing my best, I promise. We'll pop that down like so. And then I think that's not quite straight. Let's bring that over a little bit. There we go. Move that down just like that. Very pretty. And then all we do is we take this one and that will sit just there. Look at that. Isn't it gorgeous? Now, what you can also do, if you want to, is if you have some water. Now I have. Now this I should have done this before I glued it down, to be fair, but this is just a little something to show you. I'm going to take the lid off of here. Now I'm going to be very light with this. I'm just going to come just around here. I don't want to put too much on simply because it will warp. That's all I'm going to do. Okay, like that. And I think you can see that lifting already. And then we'll take our cloth, and that's only been a few seconds, isn't it? Take our cloth and we'll just take that off like so. Take that water off. Look at that. That is what I wanted. So now we've got that little element of kind of faux bleaching. And then we can bring this back in now. That's better. Look at that. That's so cool. So cool. And if you want to, you can absolutely add your sentiment. So let's pop this on the back. Now that shouldn't be too wet because I didn't have a lot of water on there. So that was on the back for, I think I was sticking something together there. I can't see what I've quite done there, but you know, it's got glue on the back, so it's fine. That will help. Then we can glue this down like so. Sit in the middle there. And if you've got a sentiment, now in my stash, let me have a look if I've got one, just so we can kind of finish, because it's always nice to show you the finished card, isn't it, rather than one almost finished. I have these. Now, obviously I keep saying to you, this is one die set, and it is one die set, but if you look here, I've got these stamps and dies. So this is called our So Very Merry Quick Pass Stamps and Dies, and it literally is one die that cuts out all these stamps. Let's see if I've got any pieces in here that we could use. Of course I have. Of course I have. I've got loads. Let's have a look. What's on here? Snowflake Kisses, Season's Greetings, a Christmas Tree. Happy Holidays. Let's go with Happy Holidays. I like that. So now we've got the Happy Holidays, and we can pop that here, which is going to look really good. Now that will be raised on foam pads. Yeah, again, we'll just cut those in half. That's fine. So this is card number 2, almost complete. And then we will do card number 3 shortly. Let's pop that one just like so. Take the backing off again. So same die set, but same die set, but just adding your sentiment. Now again, I'm going to come down a little bit from the camera so I don't get that wonky. And that's going to be so cute. What a beautiful card. That's that. And then we have our red that sits in the background. And you can decide if you want the red on it or if you just want it on the black. I'm kind of leaning towards just the black. Makes it quite vintage. Changes it up completely when you pop it on the red. But we plan to do the red, so let's add the red. Let's take our lid off our glue. So there's 2 cards with the same die set and incredibly different cards. Here we go. And then you can mount that onto your card base. So far we have these 2 completely different cards, very beautiful. And the next one we're going to look at is, we'll actually probably use these sentiments again. So the next one we're going to use is a different colour. So we're going to use this one. Look at that. Now for me, that says baby's first Christmas. Or it could be personalised. It could be more of a masculine card. It could be a wedding style as well. I think that is just such a lovely, lovely, lovely element. Now, again, let's use a white card. Now, incidentally, all the white card I'm using is A6. So in terms of inches, we're looking at 5¼ by 3¾ that's right, 5¼ by 3¾ okay, roughly, right? So here we go. So we've got this beautiful, beautiful element here. Now, what I would say here is maybe you bring ink in again, or you could use an embossing folder. I have actually a really cool embossing folder. It's called Decorative Pearls. So I love this because for me, screams baby card, screams wedding, screams Christmas, but it is pearls, you know, so you can treat it however you like, really. So I feel, again, this needs trimming down. And of course, I keep doing this off camera, so I don't keep bothering you with all of the cutting. You don't need to see me do that. All I'm going to do is trim some down. So the black card that I use is the same size, so it's all cut to size. This is called our ish card. So this is A6-ish. So we cut everything slightly smaller so it fits in your embossing folders, or the embossing folders that we bring to you. So I'm going to keep that size, and I'm going to trim this piece down. Now, what you could also do is use different colour cardstock. So you could use a cream card, you could use the pale blue, you could use whatever you like. But I think that's still quite nice on the black and the white. So just very lovely. And again, we can make choices. Let's have a look and see what happens. So let me run this through my embossing folder, through my machine, and we'll have a look at the result. So I think you're going to absolutely fall in love with this folder. Now this folder is going to blow your mind. It's so beautiful, so beautiful. We do embossing folders the best in the business. They are stunning, absolutely stunning. So that is called Decorative Pearls. Pop that away. And now all we're going to do is we are going to place this on our card base, like so. Now it's done the embossing. Can you see how it lifts and it kind of squashes the card up, so it shrinks your card? So we need to cut a little piece off the bottom there, just a touch. Just be careful when you do that, because you don't want to squash your embossing. And we'll cut that piece as well. That's what I wanted to do, to make it a little bit smaller, didn't I? So I should have cut the black and not the white. Let's see. That's better. And actually, that's a really nice size. So again, you've got choices. You can put your bows on. You don't have to put your bows on. You can put a top on it. You can put a kind of a, what do we call it? A hanging on it, whatever you like to do. You can have it landscape. Really, really pretty set. So let's turn this over, and I'm actually going to add some wet glue to this because we've got a lot of rise and fall in this one. So I want to catch the rise. So we make sure it glues down really well. And then that will sit on our card, on our black card. Yet again, make sure it's lined up, and I will try and keep my head out of the camera. There we are, look at that. How pretty is that? I mean, just ridiculously lovely, isn't it? So cool. And then we can use this one again in the middle. I mean, isn't that just wonderful? Isn't it wonderful? And then I'm going to add foam pads here. I'm not going to pop a string on this one. So what we'll do is we'll kind of mix it up a little bit. And I'm going to use glue, not foam pads, because I don't want this one to be too thick. I want to give you a difference in all of them. So some will have pads on, some won't. The next one will probably have pads on it. So let's not do that on this one. And I'll pop that around here. Isn't that lovely? How cute is that? But make sure you just hold it down because you've got all of those little elements that are kind of lifting. So that's that. And we've got those little sentiments again. So let's pick Jingle All the Way. And then what I would do with this one is I would take a piece of card and I will use black card. And let's find have I got a waste piece? Let's see what we've got. Look at this. So what we can do is take our waste card for other things that we've used, and we can literally pop it in the corner like so and then trim around the edge. So I'm going to glue this down, and then this is card number 3. And then we're almost onto card number 4. So hopefully it's giving you some ideas of what you can do. Now, in theory, I should cut this out with a paper trimmer. Let's see if it cuts out well, because we've got that gap there. If it doesn't, we'll just trim it with some scissors. Actually, should be fine. There we go. And then we can turn that around and we can pop that through that way, and gives me the ability to see. There we go. Lovely. Foam pads on the back of this piece, and you can add some extra glue to the back of this because you've got that the kind of like the pearl elements. So this will hold it up, and then we'll pop Jingle All the Way. Now you can find a sentiment that works for you, but there we are. So card number 3. So we've got 1, 2, 3 so far, all very different. Now, of course, all of these are toppers that you just pop onto card bases or onto your top folding note cards. And the last one is going to be using one of the other elements. So we're going to use, let me bring the package in for you so you can see which one I'm working with. We're going to use this one here, okay, just so you can see the difference. And we're going to apply some ink to it as well. We've got it all cut out in red. You'll see that. So that's the wrong one. You're not using that one. We're going to use this one. And then we've got the pieces cut out in red. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to recut this, and I'm going to cut this in a different colour. So I feel like because we're back on the reds again, it might be quite nice to cut this in maybe, shall we cut it in gold? Yes, let's cut this in gold, and I will show you what we're going to do. So I'm going to take the die, this one, and I've got that in gold as well. So we don't need that piece. So let's run this through in gold and it will all make perfect sense. So as I did that, it fell out, which is fine, but I want to keep it as it is. That's exactly what I want. I don't want those pieces to fall out. If you're doing it at home, they might do. And this one isn't too tricky if they do fall out, and you can pop them back into the die. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this one and I'm going to glue it to this one. Now, it doesn't really matter what the under colour is. It really doesn't. So it could have been 2 reds, it could have been 2 golds, whatever you wanted it to be. We're just going to adhere with glue, and we need to make sure we get all the pieces glued down, okay? There we go. And then we'll pop this straight over the top. So that will sit nicely on there like so. And make sure those bits are down. And now I'm going to take my tweezers and I'm going to pop that one out. And I'm going to glue here and here. And then I'm going to take my trusty pickup tool. And I'm going to pop that in there. And then we're going to go in with the next one. So we'll do the other side. And I always do take a piece out at a time if I'm doing something like this, so I don't lose all the little bits. Very lovely. Now you've got this excess piece that you can use with a different colour background now, so very beautiful. And now we've got this, and now we add to the bottom. Look, that's when this comes into play, like so. Let me just glue here, turn that around. Don't need to do the bottom because that hangs off anyway. And then that's when I will use my tweezers. And I can turn that around and pop that like so. That's your bottom piece. Gorgeous. And then of course you have your top piece. Turn that around. We'll pop some foam pads on the back of this one, and that will hold you into place. All ready to go. Lovely, lovely bauble. And then we've got this bow. Now this bow, love this. And I'm going to keep this as the red, and this one sits behind. Now you can have this at a quirky angle, and then we've got our piece in the middle. And again, you can pop this on a foam pad, which I will do on this one. Such a beautiful set. Can you see how much you can use this for? And literally, I've barely touched the surface, haven't I? Barely touched the surface. And these are quick cards as well. So look at that. I love that. So that's going to sit at this quirky angle. Then we can lift those up a little bit. Lift those up. Love that. Absolutely love that. And then look at that. Oops. Isn't that gorgeous? Very, very pretty. And of course, like I say, you change your colours up to whatever you wish them to be. So we'll bring in our inks. We'll cut some cardstock as we always do, and we'll have our black and our white as always. Trim our card down. So let me show you how I'm going to do the inking. So now what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to really go for it on the ink. So I love, love, love the blue and the yellow and the red, but let me see what happens. So let's bring in some blending sponges or blending brushes. Let's go with the yellow, and we'll be fine first of all without having to mask anything off. But let's go yellow, and we'll bring in beautiful yellow. And then over here, just bring that down like so. Got a little bit on my fingers, so apologies if I'm not being the smoothest. And then let's have the next colour. Move that out of the way for a moment. Let's bring in that strawberry sundae, and we'll come off the card a little bit. And this will cut. Let me move the blue out of the way for a moment. And this will give you a really cool ombre. And we'll come down here and over here, all the way along. So beautiful. Look at that. And you'll get a seamless blend. How stunning is this? Bring that down. As far as you need or as far as you want. And I'm actually going to turn that around. I'm going to bring the blue. Now what I will do is I will take a piece of kitchen towel and I will just hold around here. Bring that blue in. That's our, make sure I've got the right colour brush. This is super vibrant. It's so stunning. Okay, so be careful with this colour. You can see that. Look at that. Very, very beautiful. And just along here. And up here. So you'll see in a moment that we've literally created that ombre colour. Look at that. It's like a sunset, isn't it? Or a sunrise. But let's pop that down here for a moment. And then what we'll do is we turn around the colour. And you turn this around. And to prevent it looking like it's a sunrise, we bring in that blue. And what that does, it goes onto the yellow and it creates a mix which gives you green. Look at that. Look at that. So now you've got this beautiful, beautiful background. Stunning. Absolutely stunning. If you find that that's not dark enough at the bottom, you can bring in a darker blue. You could even go back in with the red. Look, you see what I mean? If I bring that red in, and it will kind of go purpley. So let's bring that in. Can you see that? So you lose that kind of. Now, look at that. Isn't that stunning? I've kept that slightly lighter in the middle as well. I'll pop that to one side in a moment. And then all we do is we wipe this off now. It's water reactive, this. So if you have some excess cardstock, I've got a piece of watercolour here. Let's just get rid of some of that. Yes. Now that would have made a 5th card. Definitely made a 5th card. Let's get rid of. I cannot bear to waste the ink. So very beautiful background, ready for your next card. Let's wipe that final bit off here. And you'll see now, when we pop this on the black, ridiculously glorious. And now you have your element and you can make a decision. Look at that. Look at that. Do you want that top? Or do you want that at the bottom? I mean, I think I'm going to go that way. Okay. And then we'll turn this over. We will glue this down. I'll just use some glue on here. And we'll turn that over, pop that onto the card base, like so. Or you can make your card base, and then we'll have a piece of gold, as we did with all the others, and I will trim that off camera again because of that silly, silly light. This is the tiniest piece in the world by the looks of it. So I'll bring that right up here. We can pop that around there. So we need the smallest amount. And again, use your glue. And because this is on the mirror card, I am literally going to take off almost all of it. And then I will place that in the middle, like so. Sorry, I can't talk when I do this. And then on the back, we will take off those pads. So hopefully you're getting some ideas here. And we'll pop that like so. It's not perfectly centered, but it's not too bad, is it? And then one of your sentiments, oh my goodness, what can we use? We had a ton of them here, didn't we? Let's say winter wishes. So we'll put winter wishes down there. Now you could have done your faux bleaching on this one, but I did it on the last one, so I didn't need to do that. This one's going to be flat, and we're not going to matte and layer this one. We'll turn that one over. So I hope you enjoyed that. So here are the cards we created today. We've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. All very different, all equally as beautiful, but these are going to give you a lot of opportunity to do very, very different things with your cards. So I hope you enjoyed that. Have a lovely, lovely day, and I will see you on the next video.